One. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Taft City Council Joint Regular Meeting for Tuesday, June the 2nd. As a courtesy to all, please turn off your cell phones, or if you're like me, your cell phone never gets turned off, so turn the little button on to vibrate, please. Any writings or documents provided to a majority of the City Council regarding any item on this agenda are made available for public inspection in the lobby at Taft City Hall, 209 East Kern Street, Taft, California, during normal business hours. We're going to start this evening's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Hill, and then the invocation by Michael Cheramonte of the Lighthouse Foursquare Church. If you would join me, please.
Salute and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day, and I thank you for the blessings that you've given us. I ask you, please bless this governing body, give them wisdom and guidance, and I do thank you for their willingness to serve this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Councilman Hill. Councilwoman Hill. I just try not to be gender specific. I want to be politically correct. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem North.
Here.
Councilmember Fryer.
Here.
Councilmember Bryant.
Here.
Councilmember Hill.
Here.
All right, thank you. First item on the agenda for this evening is a study session, Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated. City Manager Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to introduce Donna Carpenter with Stantec. She has a presentation on Stantec services.
Excellent.
The City of Taft issued an RFP. They responded. We went through a process, and they were chosen at the top of the list, so they're here to do a presentation for the City Council.
Well, wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members of the council. My name is Donna Carpenter. I'm a senior associate at Stantec here in Bakersfield. Craig kind of stole my thunder and took the words. I was going to explain that there was a grant proposal process we submitted, and we're here tonight to share our program and the thoughts and ideas we have. We did have a meeting with the staff, so we understand some of the needs, but this will give you a deeper dive into what we're thinking, and feel free to share thoughts with us, because this is kind of a joint process, and we look forward to working with you.
All right, very good.
So I'm Meredith Noble, and I came up with the grand plan that we're going to be presenting, so she's going to cue us on the PowerPoint. All right, can you even hear me? I'm like 8 inches below this microphone. Okay, so we thought we'd let you know that when I'm not grant writing, we're people outside of our jobs, I suppose. I'm a 5th generation cattle rancher from Wyoming. That would be Tom there in the lower left corner. And when not grant writing, competitive mountain biker, the competitiveness comes in handy when grant writing because we want to win. But anyway, and then Donna as well. So we can go on to the next one. All right, the agenda, kind of trying to pack in a lot in 30 minutes because what we're doing is pretty unique. Please stop me if you have questions and you want to throw out some ideas. That'd be great. So let's go on. All right, so what's a grant? It is not a tree that has money on it that you can go pluck for all of your needs, unfortunately. It is, it's free money that you're not having to pay back to the entity that awarded it. It's for a specific project, and it has to align with the funding agency's goals. And if that funding agency is not asking too much to receive the funding, then it's a good way to get your projects, kind of leverage your funding and get more done. It's kind of my definition of a grant. So we talked a lot with Yvette about some of the challenges she's having and why this even came out to be and why you're looking for support. There's a lot of reasons, I suppose, why a city would want to hire a grant writer. I work with a lot of communities in eastern Washington, and they're rural like this as well. And you simply don't have the staff that can drop 150 hours on researching and pursuing a grant application, and that's what it takes anymore to win. It takes a lot of effort. So So that would be a key reason of not trying to have your staff fit that in around the edges of the responsibilities that they already have. We can go to the next one. So orange apparently doesn't show up well, but so why would you have an architecture and engineering firm do grant writing? It probably seems a little absurd, a little abstract. But it's actually great because engineers are very realistic and practical, and so they won't overextend what can actually be done. You wouldn't put the city in a situation of over-promising what you can achieve because it's a very realistic group. What I find most beneficial about this size firm, I've always worked for smaller, mid-sized firms before coming here. There's expertise in absolutely everything. I recently met someone that his job is solely to design skate parks. That's all he does. He designs skate parks all over the US and Canada. Like, who would have thought we have an expertise in skate parks, right? So anyway, it's really helpful, but why it's related to grant writing is it makes sure that we're scoping the projects correctly so that when we're going after a project here for you, you're actually getting enough money to get the job done because you can't go back and ask for more. It's also, every part of the application has to be strong. Yeah, I can't hardly see it, sorry, I'm short. I should probably.
Me too.
Over here. So, I mean, every part of the application has to be really strong to win it, but having a really strong cost estimate and scope and what your deliverables are going to be is really what it takes to win it. We can go on to the next one. So gray also doesn't show up here, but that is a sampling of some of the funding expertise we have that I think would play well with some of your priorities. It's not everybody. And fortunately, most that you're looking for are actually here in California. So I'm located up in Spokane, Washington. It's a stone throw from Idaho. And what I found is that there's all this expertise all over Stantec. And I'm more of a generalist. The recipe for grants is the same of what they're looking for. But what's so great is that we have some really niche specialty. Like the Brownfield team, they're all over. They're in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Washington, California. They just won 6 of 6 grant applications that they turned in for EPA assessment funding. Last year, I did one of them for Spokane. The average success rate for EPA grants, 20% nationwide, and these guys are 100%. And that's 23 for 23 applications that they've done in the U.S. West. So they've got it down to a science of exactly how big each section should be for how many points that section gets. I mean, it's totally amazing. So what I found is we have transit expertise. We've got the SRF grant and loan expertise. So when we start learning about what you're looking for, I can help pull in the right people so that you've got absolutely the best person on the project. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Makes
Okay.
all the sense in the world.
Good. So I think that what you probably care about is 2 things. So do you actually win the grants, which I kind of just alluded to, and the answer is yes. And then what's it going to cost? So to answer the first question, yes, we secure grant funding. We're really good at it. So we've been doing it for 35 years. From my count, we've done $607 million in grants and low interest loans all over the U.S. And that does not include FEMA, because I just haven't even opened that can of worms. It's just that's a whole huge group that does FEMA work, and I have the contacts there, but I haven't yet got them to put it all in a list of how many projects they've helped secure, because they just haven't done it yet. But I bet it's twice that. So I kind of alluded to the Brownfield team. We can skip through this. You guys can read it. There's lots of. There were too many fun things to explain to just pick 3. So enough about us. When we had a conversation with Craig and Mark and Yvette, some of the priorities in your community started to emerge. On the left side, you'll see some of those, and on the right, a sampling of some of the funding sources that we could put to kind of to go after those priorities and to fund them. Let me know if you think we're missing something. The bottom is also kind of a list of some of the things we heard. But the idea, and I'm going to dive into it in the next section, is that you have a lot of priorities and a lot of community needs, but you obviously don't have the resources to go after all of them. So there's a process we'll need to go through to figure out what are your top priorities, and those will start to emerge as I get to know a lot more about your community. Do you want to go on to the next one? I'll kind of get into that. So this is our grant writing program. As far as I can tell, nobody else is doing this. It's 4 phases, basically. Needs assessment, with getting an understanding inside and out of what you're looking to achieve, what your vision is, where you want to go. Phase 2 is researching the funding strategy, building out an actual matrix, looking at any sort of funding source that could plug into any of those projects. It's a really helpful thing to look back on. It's a very much a living document. Phase 3 is the part that you always think of when you think grant writing, the actual application preparation, which I've come to believe is actually the easy part of all of these phases. And then phase 4 is the grant administration and project management. So for phase 1 and 3, often to do our best work in that area, we might need to have other expertise drawn in, like if you can't leverage funding until you have that preliminary engineering design done, or does master planning need to be done, or do we need a real estate analysis to know what's the highest and best use of a property if you're trying to do some economic development work. There's kind of a lot of other expertise that might need to be pulled in, and I'm not going to talk about that because I'm not an expert on it, but Dawn is. We'll focus on these 4 phases. Do you have something?
But we do have the resources to pull in
Yeah.
the right people for the team for whatever grants we want to pursue.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So, phase 1.
One other quick.
Yeah, have at it.
Stantec is one of the 10 largest architectural engineering firms in the world. We have 15,000 employees. The largest office in the U.S. is here in Bakersfield. So we have over 200 engineers locally helping out where we sit right now.
And my office 20, so I've been getting lost in the building the last couple days. It's a lot larger, that's for sure. Okay, all right, so phase 1. This is a lot of text, so here we go. The needs assessment. First thing we do is review, basically we have, you data dump us with all sorts of information. If you have any master planning, any sort of work that's been done to move forward with some of the projects in this area, we just digest it all. Read as much as we can about the community and get an idea of where you've been, where you're going, and what's been done. The next thing is actually doing informational interviews, which is part of our process, but it was also what you asked for in the RFQ. So that would be meeting with individual city departments, but I'd like to expand that to also include key stakeholder groups, because it's critical to make sure that their voices are being heard. One of which should probably be a group just having a conversation with the council. And what I found in these informational interviews, so there'd be however many departments and some stakeholder groups, is you start to see some emerging themes of, oh, these are the priorities that are surfacing to the top that I'm hearing over and over, or little things to be aware of that we want to make sure don't become a problem later on, or it's just good information to know going into preparing and researching funding. And after that, we feed this back to you. Here's our stakeholder themes. Everything's off. You can actually go back to that, off the record. And then we work with you to develop a list of what are those priority projects. So there's a couple ways to do it, depending on how you'd like to do it. But one way is looking at just developing a matrix and then rating, like these are the top 5 most important things that we're looking for to determine our priorities, and then and it gives you as a council and as a city a very defensible document for why you're putting certain projects over other projects, right? Like this is so you can answer the community that's here, like this is why we've done this, instead of kind of haphazardly chasing whatever funding source comes up and trying to to go after it. So, and then this last step, and this is where I really rely on Donna, is making sure that those priorities are documented somewhere, that even if they've just been voted on in a resolution here with the council, that it's a priority for you. And because that's a requirement in almost every funding application, to show that it's not something you came up with because the money was there, right? Any questions about that part? Because that's...
I have no questions. Any questions at this point in time? You're doing a wonderful job disseminating accurate information. We're soaking it up like a sponge. You just keep on trucking.
So yeah, I'm kind of passionate about this topic, can you tell? So, all right. The next phase. This is what I most enjoy, actually. So this is when we research a funding strategy. And what I have found is that researching what funding can fund your priorities takes more time than preparing an application. And we've got a really nice little system going. So basically just create a matrix, and it's kind of that high level information. This is the funding agency, this is the program, how much is available, match requirement, everything is all there. And it's this master list, essentially, of anything that would feed into your priorities. And then we go back to you and talk to you and kind of make recommendations on, like, I really don't like working with that funding agency, they're really difficult. We can do it if you want, but we should probably just focus on these 3 programs this year. Talk about it, and then we start boiling into the details of making sure you're legitimately eligible, which, and all the other questions that we have to make sure, so you're really know that going into this, you're highly competitive and you should win. There'd be no reason not to. And that takes a long time. It takes a lot of one-on-one conversations with the funding agencies, and multiple people in the funding agency, because they don't always give the same information for the same program. So that's a great phase, because I would not recommend anything unless I was 100% confident that you guys would get it. And as I understand right now, that's a process that's put on the or not on the council, but on the city to decide if they should be going after it. And we certainly work in concert, but I take on a lot of that workload, so that's not something that the city has to deal with, because it's complicated. So after that, we'll make a recommendation. Okay, these are the top 5 funding programs we should be looking at for the next year or 2 years. And then giving you a breakdown of the fee and the schedule to actually prepare those. Because if you go to the next slide, it varies tremendously. Some applications are really simple. There are 3 pages to fill out. You can do it really quite quickly and get it out the door. And then you have EPA brownfield grants, and they're incredibly complicated federal grants that take a lot of effort, 150 hours to do, at least. It usually takes 1 to 2 months to prepare an application, and it's not so much that the writing takes 1 to 2 months, it's everything else, like getting the resolution, gathering your letters of support, making sure everything is really pulled together. And I don't submit applications the day they're due, they get in a couple days early, so it just takes 1 to 2 months. Our folks, we write the narratives, we put together the budget and the schedule, we work with you at the city to make sure throughout this whole process, making sure that, okay, we agree with what's being put in this application. Like, certainly wouldn't submit anything without it already having a thorough review by the city. But we take a lot of that technical requirements off of your shoulders and go and find our funding expertise and have them help me actually develop those technical pieces, because they're critical. And then I do a lot of narrative writing, or whatever funding specialist would be pulling in for that.
Do you go out, I beg your pardon?
Please.
Do you go out and actually engage the community? Do you have open houses? You go out and...
Yep, totally. So we can, basically, it depends, the response of how much public involvement you would do depends on how, I guess, there's a lot of reasons of why that would vary, how deep you would go. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. I think this community is one that's very hands-on, and is going to want to have an open house and have that conversation in person. Mm-hmm. So that's where Donna is going to be extremely critical. She's only 30 miles away.
Very good.
But there's a couple other tools that I use too. We have that's free to use in Stantec. Like, I can use it as a resource. It's called My Sidewalk, and I can set up a website essentially, and we can have people, ask questions there, and it says who's listening, and that's where we could list you guys, saying like, hey, the council's looking at this and reading it. Post new updates. Hey, this is where we're at on the project or whatever. And that, if you're working on something that's very long term, it's very hard to hit every group and make sure you're keeping them updated. So this is a really good way to share with the media. It's just like, this is the history of everything we're doing, and it's all in one place. And that's a tool that we'll use if it's appropriate for what you're looking for. But
That's one of the beauties of this community, is there aren't that many groups that you would have to engage,
Sure.
other than the general public.
Right.
And we work in concert with the Chamber of Commerce,
Excellent.
the Downtown Business People's Association. Also, typically things that impact the city of Taft, good or bad, also impact unincorporated Taft.
Right.
Okay, so the county, and currently, I can tell you the people in unincorporated Taft have access to government, responsive government, unlike they've ever had in their past,
Yeah.
in the form of Supervisor David Couch, who's a very good friend of the city of Taft, as well as the people that he represents. So we have a great working relationship.
Excellent.
And a lot of these things that we would be doing, we would do in concert with them. So that's why I was asking about the engagement. That's
And
very
it's
good. It's
critical.
very important in a small community, and we want to be very transparent and very proactive when it
Yep.
comes to engaging the public in what we do.
Yeah, my background's marketing and public involvement. And public involvement for many is a check it off the box. Okay, we held our open house and no one came. We're done. We did what we were supposed to do. And to me, that's not how you do it. It's a democratic process. whatever you're doing, it should be representing a lot of voices, and you have to genuinely be hearing them. So I'm all about a really good public involvement and very organic. I mean, often a lot of the communities I'm working with are a lot smaller than this. I mean, there'll be 500 people, right? And we'll pack out the Kiwanis Club and have a great conversation and like learn about stormwater or whatever the topic is. And yeah, I'm on board. And it's
All right.
great that you guys have good partnerships around you, because nobody wants to give it's getting harder and harder to get your own funding for your own project by yourself, right? You've got to have your partners in place. And if you've already got the county and you guys work together really well, I mean, that's just such a painless thing to make happen. It's not a ton of work to have to go build that relationship if it's already there. Making my job easier.
All right, very good then.
Well,
Yeah.
All right, thank
we
you.
can draft sample letters of support.
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
grant application. And we work with Supervisor Couch on many issues through the years, back in the city councilman and now as chair of the board of supervisors.
Yeah.
So it's,
The goal is to make it as least painful for you as possible and all your partners. So, like, I'm working on a grant right now for a hydroelectric dam in Northwest Alaska. It's a super rural area. The cost of electricity is like, it's diesel converted into electricity. It's like $10 a gallon because it has to be flown in. It's crazy. And there's a lot of great supporters, but they're all super busy. So
Yeah.
they don't know the specific nuances of the program. So we just kind of craft out a sample letter of support. They make the recommendations and we get it back in a couple days. And it's like painless for the supporters, easy for us to do. And that's, part of the
Very good.
program.
The outreach, beg your pardon, the outreach portion of any grant writing and involving the community is critically important in our community. So I'm glad to hear that.
Music to my ears that you guys care about that, let me tell you.
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Seriously.
All right, thank you.
Cool. All right. Onwards. Last phase. I think probably the person that cares most about this isn't here, but Yvette would have cared quite a bit. So, grant administration. This is where we have the pay requests we need to put forth, our closeout reports, progress reports, all of that information that the funding agency is looking for. Usually we can do this for free because it's part of the project budget when you're going after the grant in the first place. So it's not an additional cost that the city would be looking for, and it's a nice way for us to be able to complement. I think that you guys have a great system and you're probably not looking for tons of support. It would depend, I suppose, on what you're looking for, but it's pretty easy for us to be able to back you up in this way to make sure that you would have a clean audit if and when that were to happen. Any questions about that?
No, the end game on any grant program is extremely important. I mean,
Yeah, you can't burn bridges.
no, you cannot,
Nope.
because it has a lot to do with the next one.
Yes, it does.
And
And they
we
talk
are-
to each other.
We are keenly aware of that.
Yeah.
It's a small world.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. And what's kind of neat too is there's a big we have a federal compliance group because we do so much federal work, and it actually influences a lot of, like, you being a project manager. I mean, it seems like, gosh, this is so much to deal with, but it's for good reason. And so I can call upon them, and I'm hoping to be able to get one person that would be a resource to use as a federal, someone from that federal compliance team that lives and breathes federal rules all day long to complement this program. And I'm working on that right now. So that is, I think that's it. Am I on the end? Oh, no. Okay, so, all right, so it sounds like what you guys are used to doing is like a, what's it called, a monthly fee. And I broke out kind of what each of these phases cost and like a hypothetical example. Let's say we did 3 applications next year, and those were $9,000 each, which it could be anywhere, right, from 3 to 15, it could be anywhere. So, and then divided that up by the month, and it comes out to about being $4,500 a month. And so I haven't done it that way before, but I actually think it's brilliant, and you guys might influence me to change the way I do things, because I like that a lot. But anyway, that's a nice way for it. Basically, the only, everything is predictable with phase 1 and phase 2. Like that's what it costs. But phase 3 is where it just depends. It depends on what we want to go after. And every single one, I'll give you a scope, and you'll be able to see it and know exactly what goes into that. So, which I think is better for everybody. Any questions about that?
Is it a flat rate you pretty much charge for each, in a percentage on top of it, or just?
Pardon, I can't right here.
On your fees and stuff, is it a flat rate for
Yeah.
each,
So for each of the phases?
for each grant, whatever, is it?
No. Nope.
Time and material.
Pardon?
Time
Oh.
and material.
It depends on the complexity of the grant itself,
Yeah.
whether it's a, $5,000,
No
$6,000.
percentages. If
or-
you grant $1 million, you get 10%.
Nope, definitely not. It's it'd be unethical, and there's this grant writing is starting to there's actually a professional association for grant writing. Yeah, if you can believe it, I think there's probably an association for everything. But that's like, it's just looked down upon. That's not what we're in the business of taking anything. That's your project. It's your money for your project. It's, for us, it's, hey, this is the fee for us to put together the best possible application, and that's it. It's done. Like, there's nothing after. So, and it's all going to depend on the complexity of the grant.
How many clients do you have? You work with?
How many clients do we have? What?
You have, how many cities do you write grants for?
Me personally, or the?
Or, I'm looking at it, you said, reading your brochure here, you had 607 million,
Yeah.
35 years, and
So-
that comes out to be about a little over $18 million a year.
Yeah.
I'm kind of figuring out how,
How many community size? Okay, well, that's 15,000 employees in Stantec. So that's, I mean, where that number comes from is primarily California, Washington, Alaska. There's a big federal aviation group. Our office too is aviation in Arizona. So this is from several offices all over the U.S. And some are just really big grants. Like they helped the city of Santa Barbara get an SRF, and that includes loan funding too. So that makes that number look really big. But one of our gals, Autumn, that's on this team, she has secured $56 million for the city of Santa Barbara to do water system improvements by herself and manage and administered it. So she did that in 3 years. So that, that's just a huge amount. So we work with a lot of communities. I mean, just looking at that EPA Brownfield grant example, they have 23 communities they're helping with just. And that's not even including the Midwest, because you can't keep track of it. So, quite a few communities, to answer your question. And now the Canadians want in on it too. But in terms of like my area is with the smaller communities, my, I guess, expertise. I work with a lot of Alaska Native tribes, and then, kind of more rural communities, like 50,000 or less. So that's kind of where I found a niche. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So what should I take away from this? So most communities are chasing funding pretty haphazardly. You always feel like you're a day late, it seems like. The funding comes out, the announcement's been published, and you're already too late if you didn't know it was coming out and you were getting geared up for it. So our approach is quite a bit different. Obviously, if we learn of a priority and there's something that's coming up in the fall, we're going to speed track that and take a look at it right now. But generally, our process is to kind of slow down, look at kind of the long range, what are we trying to get funded, and then put together these specific plans for how we want to get there. And besides it just being better for everybody, it's a really nice thing for you guys to be able to communicate when you're explaining what you're doing, and for the city of Taft, for the people of Taft, to be able to show, like, this is it, this is our plan for 2 years, instead of chasing whatever comes out. And that's what most communities do. And then I guess we minimize your risk. If you're not happy with us, show us the door. Like, I'm serious. So if you're not exceedingly happy with what we're doing, but you will be.
Here you go.
So that's it. Really excited to be here. It was a really neat experience. It reminds me a lot of Wyoming, being here. And I guess, is there any questions? Pardon? Yeah, except we have snow.
July.
Yeah, no, I can't. Oh man, that's gonna be rough.
You won't be
I'm gonna
reminded so
melt.
much of Wyoming.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it looks the same. Yeah, but we actually have winters, right? So that's the difference.
Well, it's a very proactive approach. Like you say, oftentimes, and we hear about it, hey, this big funding source, this big grants program is coming out, funding for grants program. So at that point in time, do you change your focus? Do you actually realize an opportunity and begin a focus? Or in the case that you're talking about, we sit down, we think about where does the city want to go? What do we need to provide the taxpayers? What is the best way to grow the city, if indeed that is the best thing to do for the people of the city of Taft? And then make that list and make that set of priorities, then look for the funding.
Yep.
Then do things. Basically be shovel-ready, if you will, when those funding sources come along, so you're first in line. That makes a great deal of sense to me.
Well, that's good.
Anybody else?
Well, we were-
Just one quick question.
Excellent, communicated today.
We engaged HDL to do a little bit of an analysis for us to kind of give us an idea where we are at, what we could sustain, and what could be beneficial for the city.
Yeah.
Would you guys be able to work in concert with them to, further you guys, reduce that learning curve a bit?
So I'm not, Donna?
That may be a good question for Craig.
Oh, yeah, okay. So what do they provide, sorry, can you fill me in on, what's HDL
Well,
service?
they're specifically, this one portion is economic development.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, absolutely. All the time. For instance, that EPA Brownfield grant I wrote for the city of Spokane, they actually had like 4 other consultants still working on this one area they're trying to redevelop. It was actually an old rail yard that had tons of contamination, and the poor area just can't seem to get on its feet because no one's going to buy a piece of property that, God knows what's on it. So we partnered and worked with all of those other consulting firms, came to the table and shared all the information we had, and then that was how we built the application that was then funded. So you bet.
Good to hear.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
You've done this in a very timely manner. If you can write grants and be just as
On time.
punctual, then that will be a wonderful thing.
Excellent. You got it.
Thanks for coming and visiting with us. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's fun.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, item number 2, citizens request public comments. Do we have any for this evening before I go through and read this?
Got a sheet up there?
Oh, well, okay. Well, I know that lady, she snuck in, so I'm going to go ahead and let that happen. So, this is the time and place for the general public to address the city council on matters within its jurisdiction. State law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. Council may receive comment and set the matter for a subsequent meeting. Please limit comments to 5 minutes unless, oh no, you're all right. You have somebody with you. So, please state your name for those who aren't familiar with you.
My name is Kathy Oren. No, I'm not. I've been writing a newsletter. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, and I want to let everyone know that we had a very successful car show, actually car, motorcycle, and truck show last Saturday. You know it's time for a car show when it's over 100 degrees.
Happens every time.
Absolutely. But I have to tell you, we had over 140 cars, trucks, and motorcycles, and over 33 vendors. And I say over 33 because we planned on 33 and we had more come, so it was wonderful. Great winners, great attitudes. People would come by the chamber and booth and tell us how hot it was, but assure us that it was a very good experience. So we're very happy about that. We'll have another car show during Oil Dorado, and we hope that folks will be excited about that one as well. That one will be huge. So I want to thank everyone that participated in the car show, those who came to support the people that have beautiful cars, and we thank you. It was a good experience. This Friday, we will be doing a Fund the Fireworks at the corner of 4th and Kern. The Maids of Petroleum will be there. It's interesting to me that the Maids of Petroleum bring in a lot more money than I do when I stand on the corner. I just don't quite know how that works, but the Maids of Petroleum will be there, so we expect to have a huge turnout. We also hope that the fire department and our law enforcement will be there as well. So these have been very successful, and we are closing in on our goal of $25,000 for raising for the fireworks that will happen on the 3rd of July on the Rails to Trails. So we have vendor opportunities for folks that want to do that, and a lady came by today and she said, "So do you wait for it to get dark?" I said, yes, mostly we do, because that's when you can really see the fireworks.
Definitely.
Okay, I get that. So we will be starting on the Rails to Trails a little later than we usually do, but the fireworks probably won't start till, I think, Brent, is it about 9:15 the fireworks start? About 9:15. So we hope people join us for the 3rd of July, which is our fireworks spectacular. Thank you for the chance to speak.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Oren. I would encourage everybody out there in TV land and everybody in the city of Taft and everybody in an unincorporated area, you all are invited as well. We have the most wonderful place to watch fireworks on Rails to Trails, and we do it on the 3rd of July. Now, why would you do that on the 3rd of July? Well, think about that. On Friday night, you got to go somewhere, so everybody comes out on the 3rd of July, gets to enjoy the most incredible fireworks show on Rails to Trails. Then they have all day on the 4th of July to spend at home, barbecuing at the lake, doing whatever they do, and then they can do the sparklers and whatnot in the evening with the kids, having already seen the most phenomenal fireworks display in person. So it makes all the sense in the world. That's right. We have reinvented the 4th of July, and we're doing a damn fine job. So I encourage everybody, this is your fireworks show. Think about it, just the cost of a Happy Meal. If everybody contributes, we will see to it that we start building the reserves for next year's fireworks celebration. It's your show. Be a part of it. Own a piece of it. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Oren. Next up, Planning Commission report. Do we have a Planning Commission report? Dr. Oren's better half is going to report for us.
All right, we had our regularly scheduled, Planning Commission meeting, and at that meeting, we discussed changes to the zoning ordinances, and we have sent the recommendations to you for a change to the zoning ordinance regarding hookah lounges. It was a discussion item, and the other is to bring us into compliance on the tobacco products and different imaginations of that in our codes 5, 6, and 12 of the Taft zoning code. That was our substantial discussion at our last meeting. And, am I forgetting anything, Jared? Oh, the housing element is an ongoing discussion to bring us into compliance with what Mark is researching. And we've been assured by Mark that we're well on track because it's not due for another 6 months, and we are proceeding through it expeditiously. Thanks to Mark.
All right.
Okay.
Very good.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oren. All right, next up is going to be something that I skipped. I beg you all's pardon here, and that would be council statements, non-action. Since you brought to my attention, Councilman Cryer, I'm going to allow you to be first. What's on your mind, sir?
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem North. Yeah, I read on I woke up this morning about 5 o'clock and turned on Fox News at my hotel room in Hopeville, California, and lo and behold, the Senate passed a new bill. We're gonna have minimum wage go up to $13 an hour starting in 2017. They're saying that by doing it, raising minimum wage up, you're gonna go ahead and have people make more income to be able to buy more goods, raise the poverty level up higher, better out of poverty, and help the economy. I say not. There's no way how I can do it. One is raise the wages, everything else goes up. So they're thinking they can buy more hamburgers, they'll buy less hamburgers. When you get, instead of paying $6 for a hamburger, they'll pay $9 for a hamburger. Instead of paying $20,000 for a car, it'll probably be $25,000 for a car. Everything goes up relative according to wages, no matter what it is. You go to different countries in the world, you'll find out they make $400 or $500 a month, but they all have homes, cars, vacation home, they're happy, and they don't know they're poor, because nobody tells them. But they make good money and all that, but it's all relative. But the food there is cheap, but here we have a higher standard of living, better quality, but very expensive. Who does it hurt? People on fixed income. All of a sudden, people are on Social Security or on pensions, their costs are going to go higher. How they're going to be compensated? they have to cut back on buying or move out of California. And that seems more logical, move out of California. You'll see businesses cutting back on employees, a little more automation. People who graduate from high schools or from colleges, really can't find work from where they're going to go to entry-level jobs. They're going to hire them. They'll find somebody more older, more experienced, and hire them at $13 an hour. So people lose on that. They're not there to help the people. It's there to discourage businesses from hiring, expanding, and growing, and having more, instead of having 6 or 7 workers, they'll probably cut down to 3 or 2. Make them all part-time, get underneath the radar so that they don't get caught under all the employment taxes and everything, and all the things that are entitlement programs that we have that forces businesses to watch on their labor manpower. But I just think that California is going backwards. They want to stimulate the economy. Let supply and demand dictate it. If they don't have enough workers, the employers will pay more to attain the workers. But when you put a part where it's so high, it's easier for it to locate outside of California, Arizona, Texas. Unfortunately, I guess Perry's not governor anymore, but he'll be smiling again. Come on over. We got plenty of room for you. But this is going backwards from where we need to go. I implore our state senators and elected officials, talk to different businesses, talk to the movers and shakers in California. What does it take for us to get our economy back in a reasonable growth? Don't chase us away. Don't take our livelihood, because we're working on such a slim profit margin. 2 to 3%. That's hardly anything. All of a sudden we dip into that. We're forced to go ahead and make the cuts in order for us to survive, or cut our ropes and get out of business, or move. That's the sad part about it, because a lot of businesses are just barely getting by with all that's happening in California, with all the problems we're having, with the regulations we're forced upon us, with a government-made drought we're having. Yes, we have a drought, but it could be a lot less mitigated by certain practices, by getting some water from the deltas. But the government want to do this, make it hard for anybody in the farming business, in the retail business, anything, the oil business. They smack us in the face with all these regulations and costs that just, it's unbearable. You know, it's frustrating for us, even as a city, trying to attract businesses here from out of state or in California to come to Taft. And we have this dumb government in Sacramento want to go ahead and pass these different regulations and rules. But I just get a little frustrated, and I just want to rant a little bit and get out of me before I drive back to work tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, do you feel better?
I'm feeling a little better, but not, totally.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman. Councilwoman Hill.
Well, actually, I have kind of a combination of statement and future agenda requests. I would like to direct staff to set up a workshop for the council to start developing ways for us to increase our income potential. We can't rely on the prison to be our main source of income. We really need to start working on ways to make tourism profitable for the city. An example would be Temecula. In 1992, I moved to Temecula. There were 10 wineries. There was about 6 blocks of about 20 stores in Old Town, and it was very up and coming. Now when you go through Temecula, there are over 100 wineries, and if you go through Old Town, there are over 200 of these little stores. And last year they produced over $600 million in sales tax revenue for the county. So although I don't see us as having generating quite that kind of an income, it doesn't mean we can't try. In addition, I'd like us to possibly work with some land uses. We have issue with how our buildings are being used, how our streets are being used. We really kind of need to go in concert with possibly tourism to kind of develop where buildings should be and what buildings should be doing what. And that way we can possibly get the best bang for our buck and where we're placing these buildings, what these buildings are doing, what businesses are there now, what shouldn't be there in the future. Also signage. We have nothing leading people off of the 5, off of the 119, off of the 166 that has come here and enjoy our monument, our fort, our museum, and hopefully more tourist attractions, more things for people to see. We come alive every 5 years for El Dorado. We need to find a way to come alive every day and present ways to make money for this town to, not die, but to continue to grow as far as developing businesses. And lastly, a facade program. I'm not just talking about grants, which of course it's perfect for this evening, because grants are obviously something that will help us have better facades. But an example was a few years ago when they did the remodel on Albertsons. Had we had an idea of how we wanted Albertsons to look, let's say we wanted to go with the oil cowboy type of a theme, they would have had to comply with that. Instead, we have a very generic Albertsons as opposed to something that would have really been a standout that could have looked like part of the way we want the town to go. We need to develop a way of saying this is where we want the future buildings to go, what we want them to look like, and as you do a remodel, it needs to comply with that, giving it a theme that could go with working with tourism. We're really missing out. Tourism is huge, and a lot of people don't realize that when you live in a small town, yeah, you do tend to leave. When I lived in a big city, I left and went to small towns for my relaxation. I would go to Seaport Village, I would go to Idlewild, all these little places to find out what was going on in the little places. I live in a small town, now I go to bigger places to have some more excitement. We need to have people from big cities come to our town to see what's going on. We need to make it attractive for them to do that. And it's not something that's going to take a week or a year. It's going to take a lot of years and a lot of time. I know we don't have the staff resources for that, but we can start developing that, just start getting some ideas of where we want to go. So I'm hoping that we can put something on the agenda soon in the form of a workshop so that we can start talking about ideas. And that's what I have. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
You guys kind of took a lot of the thunder, and I appreciate that, because that means you guys aren't going to have to listen to me for too long. But real quick, Kathy, kudos to you and Shannon on a great job this last weekend. It was wonderful to see, and I just hope it's 1,000 times better than that come El Dorado. And good luck on keeping your hair not gray, if that is the case, but it'd be a good problem to have. Bob, if you would, please tell your board, and especially Joel and his staff, we talked about it earlier, that Memorial Day celebration was breathtaking. They put a heck of a lot of work into that place, and just to stand there on the street corner and look at that, all those flags waving in the wind, I mean, it was an ideal day. It's hard to put words to it that really do it justice, so thank you. And, I challenge anybody that's in earshot to show up next year if you did, and if you did, bring a friend. It's well worth the while, and it's well worth the honor you're going to give to those people who've given their lives for our freedom. I wanted to publicly commend the high school softball team. If you guys don't know, those guys just pulled off their 3rd straight Valley Championship, which is a hell of a feat. Those girls have put in a ton of effort. The coaches have done a great thing, and they deserve all the kudos in the world. As a kind of right on Renee's coattails, a future agenda request might be some sort of commendation for the team. I know it's going to be a little bit after the school year, but I know some of those girls may not have left for college at that time, and I think it would be very appropriate to have a commendation for their 3rd straight Valley title. And I wanted to remind the public that this weekend we've got a lot of teams, Little League baseball teams coming into town from Delano, Wasco, and Arvin. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We'll be having baseball games all day long, both days, Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 7 at night, 10 to 7, excuse me. And then Monday night we'll be having championship games here on the newly renovated fields from 4:30 till approximately 9 p.m. at night. So come out, enjoy a hot dog, a soda, and hopefully that'll do more to keep bringing people on to Taft. So that's all I've got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I want to, and I did earlier before we got on TV, thank everybody who was a part of the Memorial Day celebration here in the city of Taft. I actually commented, I had heard a news story about the city of Bakersfield and one of the cemeteries that they have there. And I believe the one that Kevin was at, which was the Veterans Cemetery, they said they had almost 100 people show up in the city of Bakersfield, or around 100 people. And I know that we eclipsed that by a substantial margin right here in the city of Taft. And as long as I can remember, we've been doing that religiously. So hats off to all those who are involved. In regard to the flag, it's a wonderful thing to see the flags flying all over the city of Taft. And I will tell you that if it's not Memorial Day or the 4th of July and you want to see the American flag, I fly it in front of my house and on the side of my house. I'm fortunate enough to live in a corner every day. And I also fly it out in front of my business every day. You needn't have a holiday to celebrate where you live and the displaying of the American flag. It's a beautiful flag, and don't take it for granted. Every day is a great day to display the American flag.
Amen.
That's all I have. Okay, next up, city manager statements. City manager?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just a quick mention of the ICSC event that was in Las Vegas. I did not attend, but Barry Foster with HDL, that's working on our economic development plan, was there. He made contact with myself and staff, was able to have 3 or 4 productive meetings there. There's been more requests for information for land availability, land uses, and they are things that will complement the hotel, hopefully a sit-down restaurant, and some upgrades to current businesses in Taft that are looking to expand, so, and then maybe some grocery type stores. So he's out there working for us. He completed a void analysis for us, and he's working off that void analysis of basically what we're missing here and what our opportunities are. So we were able to use those at the Las Vegas convention, and then staff will be traveling to the one in San Diego where we'll have our booth, and we will continue the search for needed businesses in town. So,
All right, very good. Thank you very much. City Manager Jones. City Attorney statements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. No statement.
No statements this evening. All right, thank you very much. Now then, I know there were, we alluded to some future agenda requests, so Councilman Hill, I will let you officially.
Officially, I would like to put on our agenda a workshop mentioning the many items I mentioned.
Okay.
Tourism, land use, signage,
All right.
and possibly some facade programs.
Some of that sounds like planning commission too, but we'll need concurrence.
the good thing is if we have a workshop away from the city council meeting, I believe the planning commission and the city councilman can participate in a workshop situation.
Excellent. Do we have, I'll concur. And so we'll see that we get that taken care of. Thank you very much. And Councilman Bryant, you had a request?
I would ask for a commendation or whatever the proper wording is for the Taft High School softball team on their 3rd straight Valley Championship.
I'd second that.
We have concurrence on that as well. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, consent calendar items 9 through 13. All items listed on the consent calendar shall be considered routine and will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Any item removed from the consent calendar will be considered after the regular business items. Are there any items on the consent calendar that any member of the public would like to comment on? All right, hearing none, we'll move forward. Item number 9 would be the minutes for the regular meeting scheduled May 19th, 2015. Item number 10, payment of bills. Item number 11, resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft authorizing the execution of the certifications and assurances for the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, LCTOP. Purchase transit passes and tickets for promotion to increase ridership and reduce greenhouse gases. Item number 12, task order BSK Geotechnical Services at Federal Wastewater Treatment Plant. Item number 13, operations agreement with Kern Sanitation Authority. Any council members wish to remove any of these items from the consent calendar?
Sir?
No, sir.
Hearing none, at this time I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items 9 through 13.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Cryer,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryant,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem North.
Yes. And consent calendar is approved on a 4-0 vote. Thank you very much. All right, at this time, City Council will go into closed session regarding conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9A, City of Taft versus CDCR. Item B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9B, one undisclosed case. Finally, item C, conference with property negotiators, city manager, Government Code 54956.8, 400 Hillard Street, Taft, California. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of your local government. We're in closed session.